news! Big Bang's T.O.P under investigation for marijuana use.
We have breaking news on the K-pop front today. Some very unfortunate news about the Big Bang member T.O.P being under investigation and being caught using marijuana. I feel so bad for people like T.O.P and anyone who has an open mind with certain substances that are deemed very, very safe. If you are born in Korea or if you are just a Korean living in Korea, you have to live under these archaic laws that still exist, that are in place, that are keeping people down. A, it doesn't hurt anyone at all, and B, it is a very, very safe substance to use. It is a plant. I just want to put that out there for Koreans that are watching this channel, because I know a lot of Koreans might possibly see this video, and you are undereducated as a citizenry in your country when it comes to what marijuana as a plant and as a substance actually is. Unfortunately, it looks like T.O.P's going to be in a lot of trouble. On top of the fact that he's already serving in the military and specifically in the police, so he's surrounded by policemen who don't really know about how marijuana works, but they know that it's a really, really bad thing. Like, they've learned, whether it's true or not, that it's a super bad thing to do. Everyone that he works with is looking down at him. Not the people in Korea or people watching this video, but just specifically the actual people that he's in contact with on a daily basis. Whether you believe that it's dangerous or not, it doesn't change the fact that it's not dangerous. You're allowed to believe whatever you want, but it doesn't change facts.
It is illegal in Korea, and that is something to keep in mind. You know the laws of your area, and you should be a law-abiding citizen, especially if you are a K-pop star. However, for those of us who know Big Bang and know of YG entertainers in general, this shouldn't actually be all that surprising. Like, I wasn't surprised by this news.
Surprised that he didn't smoke weed. Like, I expect them all to smoke weed because weed actually helps you become more creative in certain circumstances. Those guys are super creative. They're some of the best entertainers out of Korea ever, of all time. Of course, some of that creativity has got to come from somewhere. And if you smoke a little bit of weed, or if you eat an edible that has cannabis or THC in it, it relaxes you. It does open your mind. It doesn't make you sick. It doesn't do anything harmful to your body really at all. It does a lot of good things and many, many, many positive creative things. Their music is so creative, it seems that it's possible that they could have smoked weed and written some songs.
Well, G-Dragon has been caught smoking before, and he got let off with a very minor just note on his record. It doesn't surprise me that this happened with T.O.P. The thing that surprises me more than anything was how this came about, how he got caught, and the irony that he's actually working in the police force right now, and what will that turn into? Like, what is going to happen now from now on into the future? I also find the timing really suspicious, y'all. Really suspicious that this is all blowing up right before G-Dragon is going to put his new solo out, his new solo album. G-Dragon and Taeyang are both going to be making comebacks probably this summer, early fall. And like, this timing is just, like, I feel like somebody's trying to draw the thunder away from YG and make people look at YG negatively. This took place, the smoking marijuanas took place back in October, and supposedly he said initially that he was just using an e-cigarette and that it wasn't necessarily weed. He was like, I'm just using an e-cigarette. Supposedly, though, a friend of his ratted him out to the police, and then there was a female trainee who claimed that she was smoking weed with T.O.P in his apartment, which that's not supposed to be happening.
Doesn't that mean that she is in big trouble too?
Well, she's in totally big trouble, but her career is, she has no future career in entertainment, because you're not supposed to be fraternizing with the higher ups if you are a trainee. Like, that's not supposed to be happening. You're not supposed to be in T.O.P's, like, sanctuary, if you will.
I'm very upset by this for a lot of reasons, mainly because the law is stupid. T.O.P now has a lot of things to be concerned about because, and I know this from personal experience because I know a lot of people who've smoked weed. I know people personally who've been caught for weed and caught for hash in Korea, he's probably going to jail. He's gonna have a hard time avoiding going to jail for a certain amount of time. I say this from experience because I know people have gone to jail for this. Basically, the laws in Korea have worked like this. When I lived there in 2003, I knew people that imported weed into the country, and I knew people that imported hash. Right before I was getting ready to leave in August of 2003, one of the guys that I was good friends with got caught selling hash and had to go to jail for 6 weeks. This was a white Canadian dude. I emailed with him after he got out of jail 6 weeks later, and he told me he learned Korean fluently in the 6 weeks he was in jail because nobody spoke English that was an inmate at all. This is a little backstory. Basically, in 2003, anyone caught with any type of weed at all, or even if it was caught in your system and you didn't have possession of any weed or hash or anything at all, even if it's just in your system, as far back as 18 months, you would go directly to jail. They would then have a similar system as the United States where they would put you through the court system. It would take a long time, but you would go to jail first and do court afterwards. They loosened the laws while we lived there, 2010, 2011. They started seeing the light. I think Obama had a lot to do with this. More recently, they've gone back to the old way with the thinking. I think 2015, there was another turning point where they reversed the law and made it more strict for people. So this is the situation with T.O.P. He was not caught with possession of marijuana at all. They did not catch him with any marijuana. All they did was have someone say, T.O.P. used marijuana. They then called him into the office. They said, pee in a cup. We're going to take your blood and we're going to take a piece of your hair. And they tested it. And then 6-7 months prior to the time that they tested him, he was caught with it. So that means with his hair, somewhere probably 1 inch, 2 inches up, they were able to tell way up that he had used it. And this is the situation at hand today. They wasn't caught with any marijuana. They didn't see him smoking it. There's no video evidence. There's nothing except a chemical test
that was in his hair. They caught him via his hair, which to me is really shocking and surprising.
It makes me want to cry. It makes me want to scream. They don't, you have to understand the larger picture here. There are literally thousands of prosecutors and detectives that work in Korea on taxpayer-funded money, all under this law to keep marijuana illegal and to get every single possible person in trouble for it. So that way, all of these thousands of investigators and thousands of prosecutors can keep their jobs. They all have families. They don't want to lose their jobs. So they have a very specific intention of keeping all the laws in place and not changing any of the laws in order to continue to get a paycheck, to pay for their son or daughter to go to Hagwon and to go to school and prepare for university. Like, this is the system that we live in, whether it makes sense or not. And it totally doesn't make sense because marijuana doesn't hurt anyone. He didn't hurt anyone. Nobody knew about this. Nobody would have ever known if somebody didn't fucking leak their mouth. And here we sit, so that way all of these people who have these jobs can keep these jobs so the laws don't change.
I would be highly surprised if T.O.P. ended up actually going to jail. Now, I'm wondering how they got the hair sample.
Well, they called him in.
Yes, but he's going into the military. Why didn't he shave his head like all the other guys when they go into the military? Like,
oh, that's a good point.
They wouldn't have caught it any other way.
They might have actually called him in before he enlisted, and then this news broke recently, but the investigation happened several months ago, slightly before he shaved his head, because I thought he did cut his hair.
Yeah, but that's why I'm like, why are they releasing it right now? Like, the timing is, to me, is really suspicious.
If you talk about the logistics of taking the hair sample, though, they could take it off his pubic hair, they could take it from anywhere, and it will be testable. I'm just saying. I've known about the hair test. They've had the hair test since I was in high school, so since the 90s. And so the hair test isn't even new technology. It doesn't have to come from your head. It can come from your nipples. It can come from anywhere. And he might have had his head shaved and they couldn't take it there because you're right. The hair sample has to be, if it was 6 months, it would be a little bit, like it grows out where they know how far back according to how long the hair is. Maybe I know too much about this. That's because I care so passionately about people's personal rights and freedoms. And one of the freedoms that's happening in the United States now, federal government's trying to continue to enforce a very old law as well. People in Colorado aren't dying from marijuana use. In fact, business is booming. They got taxpayer money for schools. They got enough money. They're giving money back to the citizens. More states are legalizing medical marijuana. I think 29 or 30 something states have legal laws for marijuana uses for people who have pain and glaucoma and cancer and all these things. It's really actually very, very helpful, more helpful than prescription drugs.
But going back to T.O.P, what do you think's going to actually happen? I think that he may end up getting demoted from the police task force where he's currently stationed. He might end up doing like regular army duty. And, you know, personally, I think if they were smart, they would just tack another year onto his military service.
Similar to a Psy situation. I don't know if Psy got caught with drugs, but I know Psy had to do two-year terms. I think there's probably about an 80% chance that he's going to serve some jail time. I think they need to make an example of this in order to keep the strict laws in place, because if they don't put him in jail, but they put all these other people in jail, because they're putting people in jail right now for weed. Even though he wasn't even caught with it in his possession, they're putting their own citizens in jail, whether it's for 2 days, a weekend, a week, 30 days, 90 days. That is the standard protocol. If they decide not to do it, it's mainly because he's super rich and he can afford really, really good lawyers. But even good lawyers can't convince judges who also need to ensure that the laws are in place so they can keep their jobs too. Because if you have nobody going to jail for marijuana, then you have a lot less court cases and you need a lot less judges, a lot less prosecutors, a lot less detectives. And then these people are going to lose their jobs. There's a lot of people in Korea and there's a lot of people that work in law enforcement. I'm just saying, when you look at it from the perspective that way, probably there's a 3 out of 4 chance, unfortunately. It's not going to change the way I see them at all, but I think Koreans are going to be extremely disappointed here, but they don't even know why.
I don't really think that it's going to make that much of a wave. It's going to make waves right now because of G-Dragon making his comeback and the fact that T.O.P's in the military and he's serving under the police force. Like, that just looks kind of shady and it looks kind of bad. But I think that this will just all blow over eventually because, like I said, Psy's been caught with drugs. He ended up just having to serve extra military time. G-Dragon's been caught smoking weed before. Like, it's happened in the YG camp before. We still love him anyway.
Comment your reaction to this, please. I'm not sure why this T.O.P incident, him getting caught, is different or feels different than Psy or G-Dragon. I thought G-Dragon got caught in Japan. I don't remember because it was a long time ago. It's not important. This isn't important either, but the only difference between Koreans and most other people in the world is that Koreans are not going to forget about this. If he wasn't in the military and if he had gotten caught several years ago prior to going in the military, this might have blown over a lot more quickly. Him being in law enforcement while this happens, it changes the dynamic or it changes the way that they're going to report on it.
Well, it does change the way that they report it. When somebody is actually in the military, they expect that to be a time where you hear only good news, and any bad news that takes place during that time tends to have a lot more gravity. So I hope that this blows over quickly. Fingers crossed that it will, but one thing I will say is I hope that T.O.P has learned not to take the young girls back to his house and smoke them up, because that's not going to blow over well.
The only other thing is he just started his military. He still has over a year left. It's going to be a slow, long time. It sucks. Click the like button, you guys. Thank you for supporting us here at Hallyu Back. Click the bell for notifications. Check out the link to KGAL. And don't forget to subscribe for more Hallyu Back news. That's it. We're out of here. Hasta luego.
Bye.